Welcome to the deep dive. Our mission today, well, it's to take this stack of really fascinating, maybe even kind of strange source material and turn it into instant expertise for you. So today we're diving into a global organizational development tool. And honestly, on the surface, it looks like something sketched on a napkin. It's a cartoon of people struggling pulling a wagon with square wheels. Yep, square wheels. But, this isn't just some funny clip art, this image. It's the core of a system called Square Wheels. And the creator actually claims it's the world's best engagement and facilitation tool. It's been used in, 49 countries since way back in 1993, driving performance improvement for 3 decades now.
Yeah, that longevity.
Yeah.
And that global reach. All based on, a pretty simple drawing. That's what makes this deep dive so interesting, I think. We're going to bypass the surface level joke of it all and really dig into the deep psychological stuff, the architecture that makes this simple visual metaphor work so incredibly well.
Right, let's unpack the core concepts then, because the power seems to come from that stark contrast in the picture. The sources give us these two essential definitions that drive basically every conversation around this tool. First up, the square wheels. So these represent the processes, the structures, maybe the systems in your organization that do work technically. They get the job done.
Yeah.
But man, they do it inefficiently, slowly, painfully even, necessary friction.
Right.
And then the direct counterpart, the round wheels. And these aren't some, futuristic, super complex inventions.
No, they're the ideas for improvement that often already exist right there inside the organization. Maybe even in the heads of the very people pulling that square-wheeled wagon.
Yeah.
They're the obvious, simple solutions just waiting to be implemented. The whole point of the exercise is identifying those square wheels and crucially figuring out how to swap them out for those latent round wheels.
It's kind of brilliant, isn't it, how simple the visual communication is?
Yep.
And what's really fascinating is how adaptable this tool has been, since the early 90s, when they were using, physical overhead transparencies.
Oh, absolutely. The physical format has constantly evolved. We've seen the original line art, then colorized versions.
And the fact that the simplicity scales. Like you said, 100 top managers in the Hong Kong government, or a factory floor team somewhere in Germany. It suggests the image has to be almost universally understandable. It's clearly not just a cute cartoon. Its power must be in its strategic ambiguity.
Exactly. That's where we hit the real core of the insight here. If you're just looking at a drawing, a simple drawing, why does it generate such complex, such localized ideas and all this organizational self-awareness?
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting. Let's get into the psychological hook. The sources suggest these images function, kind of like a Rorschach test, the ink blot test. The creator actually calls them projective psychological tools.
Precisely. The images don't have one single intrinsic meaning baked in. They are deliberately generic. Simple, so that you, the participant, you have to project your own reality onto them. So when a manager looks at that square-wheeled wagon, they see their specific painful weekly meeting schedule, right? A frontline worker sees their broken supply chain process. It becomes personal.
Ah, okay. So the image is being maybe deliberately neutral or even, like you said, sort of bad art. That's actually a feature. They have to be ambiguous, so nobody can argue about what the picture objectively means.
Yeah.
Which forces them to own the meaning they bring to it. Is that it?
Exactly right. That ambiguity makes them safe. It's not prescriptive. And that projection mechanism, it leads us directly to the engine of behavioral change this whole tool is designed to generate. Cognitive dissonance, right? Cognitive dissonance, that psychological discomfort we feel, right? When we hold two conflicting beliefs or realities at the same time. So how does a simple visual translate into such a strong motivator for change? Well, it presents you with this undeniable gap. On one hand, you've got the reality. The painful, bouncing square wheels you're currently dragging along every day.
But on the other hand, the whole philosophy states that the round wheels, the solutions, they already exist. Your brain, it's wired to want to close that gap.
Yeah.
Because dragging square wheels when you know the round ones are sitting right there, that creates this intense psychological pressure, discomfort. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
And this is why it's often so much more effective than, say, top-down change management. If management just mandates a new process, your compliance is external. You do it because you have to. But if you identify your own square wheel and you see the round wheel needed to fix it, well, the motivation to change becomes internal. You're driven by the discomfort of that dissonance, and you take ownership of resolving that pain yourself.
Ah, I see. So it shifts the whole conversation.
Yeah.
From maybe blaming others for a bad process to actually owning the solution for your own pain point. And once an issue gets identified using this metaphor, once you label it a square wheel, It sort of becomes an imperative, doesn't it? It's not just an optional discussion item anymore. It feels like a necessary repair.
And that labeling power, you really can't overstate it. When you look through the source material, this idea that the round wheels already exist, that's the philosophical hammer, really. It removes the wiggle room. It stops staff from saying, oh, well, we don't know how to fix this. The exercise shifts the focus almost immediately from problem identification to solution implementation, because it asserts the expertise is already right there in the room.
Okay, so let's connect that powerful internal motivation to like the actual workshop process.
Yeah.
How do you harness that Rorschach-level insight? The facilitation technique they use sounds, well, deceptively simple, but also highly structured.
Yeah, it has to be structured to make sure all the voices get heard, right? And to stop groupthink from just taking over. So the process typically starts with silent individual contemplation. Each participant just spends some quiet time reflecting on the image and asking themselves, how might this represent how things really work, in our department or our team?
Right, that solitary time seems key. It ensures every single person has a personal reflective stake in it before external opinions start clouding their judgment. And then you move to small groups, like tabletops of 4 to 6 people.
Exactly. They share their individual projections, their initial thoughts, and they start to merge those perspectives, generating both individual round wheel ideas and maybe some collective insights that nobody saw alone. And only after that essential small group processing where, peer consensus starts to form, only then do you facilitate the whole group discussion. To arrive at a consensus on, say, the highest priority square wheels and the most feasible round wheels, it's a layered approach. It ensures peer support and builds broad consensus around the solutions that emerge. And this leads to what sounds like one of the most crucial benefits for any big, complex organization: depoliticization.
Yeah.
Getting rid of the finger pointing. Absolutely. Think about it. If you as a team member stand up and criticize the current quarterly report process, well, the person who designed that process or who manages it now, they might take it personally, right? It feels like an attack on their work or maybe even their whole department.
Yeah, that happens all the time.
But calling the quarterly report system a square wheel, that's not usually viewed as a personal attack. It externalizes the problem. It becomes a collective barrier we all face, not a personal failure on someone's part. The image acts like a shield, almost. It allows for genuine critique, real talk, without all the interpersonal fallout that so often stalls any real change. That externalization, it links perfectly to that quote you found in the sources, the one that really drives home the ownership aspect. Nobody ever washes a rental car. Yeah. It's cynical, isn't it?
It is, but it's also deeply accurate about human behavior, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So this process, it's fundamentally about shifting responsibility, right?
Yep.
Away from that passive critique of a rental process someone else forced on you, to active ownership of the solution. If I help design the round wheel, well, suddenly I'm invested. I want to make sure it rolls smoothly.
Exactly. That active involvement, starting from the silent reflection, going through the small groups, building consensus that is the direct link to sustained workplace engagement. And when we look at the promised impacts, the takeaways detailed in the sources, they really confirm this ownership focus. The process generates team-based ideas, it provides a collective perspective on performance issues, and it dramatically increases motivation. Why? Because people feel heard. They feel involved in actually fixing their problem, not just complaining about it.
So the end result isn't just like a list of random ideas.
No.
It's more like a catalog of solutions that already have buy-in. They have peer support and ownership built right in, which logically makes implementation vastly easier. It shifts the whole dynamic, doesn't it? From what should management tell us to do to, okay, what are we going to commit to doing about this?
Right.
Now let's pivot this 30-year-old psychological concept into today's reality, the world of remote and hybrid work. Because while the original tool was absolutely built for physical in-person workshops, the creators are now integrating the square wheels concept with digital collaboration tools so they can scale the process for supervisors and consultants, globally.
Okay, so they're pairing the old school visual metaphor with modern platforms. Specifically, I saw they're looking at integrating with StormDiz, which is used for real-time collaboration, brainstorming, digital decision-making, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, Storms is one example. And the beauty of the digital integration is that a platform like Storms can handle the complexity, collecting maybe hundreds of ideas, generating word clouds from participant inputs instantly, and ensuring a really structured digital shift, moving smoothly between identifying the square wheels and then proposing and maybe even prioritizing the round wheels, all online.
The core strategic need here really is scalability and tracking. When you potentially have 30 supervisors running these kinds of sessions simultaneously across an organization, you need a hosting platform that can automate the process as much as possible and, crucially, track the outcome.
And crucially, for global teams, it's got excellent mobile accessibility, which is pretty much mandatory these days for active engagement. This automation aspect seems key, making sure that supervisors who maybe aren't expert facilitators themselves can still deliver a highly structured, repeatable workshop experience using these tools.
Yes, and the other strategic advantage is the data capture, advanced analytics, tracking participant engagement, sure, but also ensuring that those collective insights, those round wheels identified in the sessions, are automatically captured. It transforms what could just be a brainstorming session into actionable management data.
Okay, so for you, the listener, if you're maybe planning an organizational rollout,
And early.
it really is remarkable, isn't it? We started with this simple cartoon wagon image from, 1993, and we've drilled all the way down to a pretty sophisticated, digitally integrated solution for modern workplaces. The enduring power of this tool seems to lie in its ability to harness that cognitive dissonance, that innate human desire we all have to solve a problem once we recognize it and, crucially, own it, all by using a safe, simple visual trigger.
And that really is the central insight we want to leave you with. The success of this whole square wheels philosophy, it relies entirely on the core belief that the round wheels, the solutions already exist within your team, within your organization. The hard work isn't necessarily invention. It's often just the removal of friction, identifying and getting rid of the blockages. Which raises, I think, a final provocative question for you, the listener. If the solutions in your organization are likely already known, maybe even obvious, what square wheels, what ingrained cultural habit, what procedural blockage, what structural misalignment is your organization currently dragging along that prevents those readily available round wheels from ever hitting the pavement?